Cascadia megaquake isn't a question of if, it's when. Scientists have spent decades piecing together the evidence, and what they found is clear. The Pacific Northwest is sitting on a ticking time bomb. It's a real danger.
The U.S. Geological Survey was actively updating national volcanic threat assessments, warning several U.S. volcanoes posed a significant risk to population.
In the Pacific Northwest, a slow-motion collision of tectonic plates along the Cascadia subduction zone has been building tension for over 320 years. And when that tension is released, the resulting earthquake is likely to be as large as a magnitude 9. That will be 45 times more powerful than California's most destructive quake in 1906, and the consequences defy imagination. This megathrust earthquake is predicted to be so significant, locals simply call it the big one. And scientists estimate that it has an alarming 37% chance of occurring within the next 50 years.
The assessments were used to prioritize monitoring and emergency planning. Some of the high-threat volcanoes included in Alaska, Washington State, like Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, in Oregon, Three Sisters, California, Hawaii. Congress and USGS were discussing expansion of a national volcano early warning system because many hazardous volcanoes were considered under-monitored. The concern was not that an eruption was imminent, but that monitoring capability lagged behind the potential threat. So around 2017 up until current, organizations studying global risk included supervolcanoes, large earthquakes, climate disruptions, pandemics, and other low probability and high impact events as threats requiring international planning. The reports generally discussed preparedness rather than forecasting a specific disaster. There were also air quality and volcanic winter concerns that scientific literature expounded on. It had been discussed that even moderate volcanic eruptions could have outsized effects on transportation, supply chains, agriculture, and air quality because of the way modern infrastructure is concentrated. 2016, there was a Cascadia Rising exercise, which was a 4-day multi-state disaster simulation based on a magnitude 9.0 earthquake and tsunami from the Cascadia subduction zone. It involved FEMA, military units, state emergency management agencies, tribal governments, local governments, and Canadian partners. The purpose was to identify weaknesses in communications, logistics, medical response, transportation, and continuity of government. Military participation included National Guard units, Air Force Reserve Rescue Squadrons, U.S. Northern Command support elements, search and rescue, and mass casualty response teams. The exercise simulated widespread infrastructure failure, damaged ports, collapsed bridges, communication outages, and large-scale evacuation needs. Then there were other reoccurring preparedness efforts that included annual Great Shakeout earthquake drills involving millions of participants, FEMA Region X Cascadia planning exercises, the National Guard Disaster Response did exercises, port hospitality, utility, and transportation continuity exercises. In 2017, earthquake early warning technology came into play. It was a very significant development. The U.S. Geological Survey and partners launched a unified West Coast version of Shake Alert and expanding the system beyond California to Oregon and Washington pilot users. The system became operationally capable in 2018 and was later, it's now public. Some of the advances include dense sensor networks across the West Coast, real-time data processing, automated alerts to phones and infrastructure, integration and transportation and emergency systems. Remember when everybody was getting those alerts, the states at a specific time, they said, turn your phones on, make sure your phone's on because we're going to make sure we send an alert to every phone in the states. They were syncing that system.
Buildings start to collapse. This is where 95% of Oregon and Southwest Washington's fuel is brought in and stored. These tanks will deform, they'll spill. Any type of spark or metal hitting each other could also start a fire. The Cascadia subduction zone earthquake is going to be one of the worst disasters America has ever seen.
Officials in Portland, Oregon created this animation showing what they predict one of the busiest bridges in the Northwest will look like. And it's not pretty. the aftermath of the quake, survivors along the coastline in towns like Seaside, Oregon will have as little as 20 minutes to evacuate before the massive tsunami hits.
In a place like Seaside, what we need to do is get from here up to the hills right back there. It's a very straight path. It's not that far. It's a very doable evacuation, but there's a problem here because there's no way to get there without crossing one of these bridges. The bridges were built before plate tectonics, so we've got no retrofitting at all. If these bridges go down, people trying to evacuate are going to have a problem. They're going to have to swim the river and then continue evacuating up the hill.
To get an idea of just how risky this situation is, Chris actually flew our camera person over Seaside in his acrobatic plane.
As we're flying over Seaside, you can see how low elevation the town is. The ground doesn't really rise much until you get well on the other side of the highway. Pretty much everything on the west side of Highway 101 is pretty likely to be inundated. I mean, I came home from Japan feeling optimistic about it, but at the same time, I look around at the Pacific Northwest, and I can see just visually that, yeah, we are 1,000 years behind, and this is not going to be easy to catch up.
But officials in the Northwest are getting started. Portland is currently reviewing options to build a new Burnside Bridge to serve as a lifeline after the quake. And all new structures are being built up to earthquake standards. Still, the vast majority of homes in the region are not ready for earthquakes of this magnitude,